climate change. You have been one of the oil companies that has been to the fore in saying, look, we think climate change is a problem, we have to deal with it. Donald Trump has emerged as somebody who doesn't seem to believe that, at least on the surface. How do you expect the new administration to deal with climate change?
I think, the climate change is a fact. It's a question of science. It's a fact. 195 countries have adopted a treaty. This treaty has been put into force in less than 1 year. So we want it or we don't want it. The global community is feeling that we have to do something. I respect then each policymaker can do it. More regulation, less regulation. So I think Donald Trump has been very clear that he doesn't want to regulate in favor of climate change. But the real dynamic in the US about climate change has been the emergence of shale gas, which have replaced coal-fired power plants. In the US, and it's a matter of economics. It's not a matter of regulations. Investors, they invest in power, and they prefer to invest in gas-fired power plants than coal-fired power plants, just because it's more economic in the US. And that President Trump will not change it.
SunPower is a company which you put the investment in, but it's had difficulty with competition from China. Is that an area where you'd like to see more protection for American companies?
I will tell you what happened in solar. The US and Europe have decided to put some tariff, some barriers, 2-3 years ago. What happened with the Chinese company? They have built some plants outside of China, in Vietnam, in Philippines, in Taiwan. And so we still have another capacity. So I think I'm not a strong believer that tariff and barriers and trade barriers can save these type of things. It's what we should be observe is more that the competition is fair. Unfair competition should be very careful. And what is happening on solar is that the Chinese policy today is subsidizing a lot over Chinese companies.
So that is unfair competition.
And it's unfair competition. But you don't solve it by trade barriers. You solve it using the WTO rules and going to the WTO panels and saying this behavior is not fair and we should correct it.
And do you think that SunPower will return to sort of reliable profits eventually?
It's a startup. It's an infant industry. SunPower, I believe, has very strong technology, a very good management, strong management as well. They're very dedicated. Total has 60% of it, and we are committed to SunPower. And I think they are today focused on. They have to manage their cash like all companies. Their technology is very well adapted to all, I would say, the distributed solar on the roof of in the US in particular. They have a good market share, 13%. So we are supporting them, and I hope we'll be able to continue.